Welcome to the Biblical Perspectives for Leadership podcast, where timeless biblical truths meet modern leadership. We are thrilled to have you join us on this journey of exploring how biblical principles can guide us in leading with wisdom, integrity, and purpose. Whether you're leading in the church, your workplace, or your community, this podcast is designed to inspire, challenge, and equip you for the road ahead. Let's dive into today's conversation and discover how Scripture shapes the way we lead.
Welcome back to Biblical Perspectives for Leadership.
It is great to be here.
So I want you to imagine for a second, just put yourself in this scenario. You are leading your team through, literally the absolute greatest victory in your organization's entire history.
The absolute peak.
Right. You've defied the odds, you've beaten the fiercest competition, and everyone is just singing your praises.
Everyone loves you in that moment.
Oh, exactly. But then, literally just 72 hours later, that exact same team is ready to mutiny.
Wow. That's a shift.
It is. They are angry, they're panicking, and suddenly they are blaming you for every single thing that is going wrong.
Which is honestly one of the most jarring experiences a leader can face.
Absolutely. And today, we are aiming this deep dive squarely at you and your everyday life. We are focusing intensely on how you handle that exact kind of leadership whiplash.
Because the story we are digging into today, well, it provides us a remarkably practical blueprint for surviving that kind of intense pressure.
Yep.
And maybe even more importantly, how to take that natural human instinct to complain and actually transform it into highly productive prayer.
I love that. So let's set the scene for you from the story, because the context here really is everything.
It really is.
The Israelites have just experienced what is arguably, one of the most famous and incredible miracles ever recorded.
The parting of the Red Sea.
Exactly.
Mhm.
God has delivered them from generations of brutal Egyptian slavery. He literally parts the Red Sea for them to cross on dry ground, and then boom, he defeats Pharaoh's pursuing army right behind them.
It is the ultimate mic drop moment.
Yes. For a leader like Moses and for the people he is leading, this is the ultimate victory. It's the absolute highest of highs.
It is. And, that brings us to this crucial foundational concept that's sort of hidden right at the beginning of this account.
Oh, right.
Because, yes, God had just brought Israel out of Egypt in this spectacular, undeniable way. But practically speaking, he still needed to get Egypt out of Israel.
Okay, that is a brilliant way to frame the problem.
Yeah.
Like, just taking the physical chains off doesn't instantly change the internal mindset.
Precisely. I mean, physically, sure, they were free.
Uh.
But psychologically, spiritually.
They were still stuck.
Right. They still needed to learn how to think, how to live, how to operate, and honestly, how to trust as completely free people.
Because for over 400 years, they had the mindset of slaves.
Exactly. They were completely conditioned by a system of worldly dependence. I mean, yes, their oppressors were cruel, but they also provided this predictable ration of food and water.
It was a known quantity.
Right. So to break that deep-seated psychological dependence, the wilderness actually became their necessary classroom.
And the transition into that classroom is brutally fast. I mean, we go straight from the ultimate high of the Red Sea crashing down on their enemies.
Directly into a harsh reality check.
Yes. It really establishes early on why having a massive success in your life doesn't somehow, inoculate you against immediate and severe struggle.
Right. Success isn't a shield against hardship.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because in Exodus chapter 15, verse 22, the text tells us that Israel goes directly from the Red Sea into the wilderness of Shur.
Straight into the desert.
Literally straight from the victory parade into a barren desert.
And, the geography there is just so intentional. If you look closely at Exodus chapter 15, verse 22, you realize they didn't just wander off course.
Right.
This was the specific route laid out for them.
Yes. And if we apply this to everyday life, everyday leadership, we see this pattern constantly.
Oh, all the time.
You get a massive promotion at work, the one you've been praying for, and your first week in the new role is just an absolute disaster.
A total mess.
Or, you start a new business, you launch it with all this fanfare, and immediately hit a devastating supply chain crisis.
Right. Or you get married, come back from the honeymoon, and boom, you face a brutal financial reality.
Exactly. Or maybe you hit this massive spiritual breakthrough, only to immediately enter a wilderness of deep frustration or unexpected illness.
It's so common.
It makes you wonder, right? I think it makes all of us wonder. Does hitting a difficult season right after a massive win mean we somehow took the wrong path?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is definitively no.
Okay.
The story is very clear on this. The exact same God who led them to victory at the Red Sea intentionally led them into this intensely uncomfortable place in the wilderness.
So it wasn't a navigational error.
Not at all. In this context, the wilderness is a place of profound testing. It's an incubator for leadership and spiritual formation.
Wow.
And most importantly, it is designed to systematically strip away false securities.
Stripping away all those predictable things they used to lean on back in Egypt.
Exactly. Because when you are a slave, you don't have to make executive decisions.
You just endure.
Right, you wait for your rations. The wilderness was removing that predictable toxic crutch. Israel had to learn that God and not Egypt, not their former oppressors, and honestly, not even their own cleverness, was their true ultimate source.
He had to be everything.
Yeah. God uses these seemingly barren seasons to prepare leaders for the weight of the freedom they've just been given.
And that brings us to a massively important takeaway for you as you listen to this today. Think about your current situation. The wilderness may dramatically change your surroundings, but it does not change your God.
That is so true.
Just because you are facing a brand new, terrifying challenge, it does not cancel out the miracle you just experienced yesterday.
The promotion is still real.
Yes. The marriage is still real. The breakthrough is still valid, even if the current landscape looks completely barren.
Which is such a necessary anchor to hold on to, because the landscape in this material is about to get much, much more difficult.
Yeah, it gets so much worse.
It really sets up a severe, acute leadership test for Moses. We see this crisis unfold just a few verses later. We introduce Exodus chapter 15, verses 23 and 24, and the situation just turns dire.
Right.
3 days, just 3 days after they were literally singing and dancing on the shores of the Red Sea about God's immense power, they arrive at a place called Marah.
And they are parched.
Desperately thirsty, marching through a desert. They finally scout water, they rush to it, and they quickly realize they cannot drink it because the water is bitter.
It's toxic.
Yeah, and immediately the people murmur against Moses, demanding, "What shall we drink?"
Talk about the ultimate whiplash of leadership. 1 minute you are the hero of the hour, everyone is singing your praises.
And then they turn on you.
3 days later, the crowd is turning on you, questioning your competence and demanding answers. But I have to push back on this scenario for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I want to look at this from the perspective of the people on the ground. Isn't their complaint, kind of entirely justified?
How do you mean?
Well, the story points out that the water was actually physically undrinkable. If a modern CEO leads their company into a disastrous quarter where payroll might bounce, the team absolutely should speak up.
Sure.
Doesn't biblical faith require us to face reality? You can't just pretend toxic water is fine and call it faith.
That is a completely fair pushback. And the beauty of this historical account is that it actually validates that perspective.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. Yes, the water really was bitter. Faith does not ask you to deny reality, to embrace some sort of toxic positivity, or pretend a crisis doesn't exist when it clearly does.
Right.
Their failure in this moment wasn't that they correctly recognized the bitterness of the water. Identifying a real problem is just good awareness.
Right. So where exactly did they cross the line from, good awareness to a failure of faith?
Their failure was in how they responded. They responded as if God had suddenly, inexplicably, just stopped being faithful. They went from identifying a supply issue to completely assassinating the character of their leader and questioning the entire mission.
That escalated quickly.
It really did. And there is a brilliant psychological insight here regarding how human beings handle pressure.
Tell me more about that.
Pressure doesn't always create what is inside of us. Very often, pressure simply reveals what the prior celebration had concealed.
Wow. So you're saying the fear was already there all along?
Exactly. When they were at the Red Sea, their mouths praised God loudly because, the circumstances were perfect.
The enemy was destroyed. They were safe.
Right. But this sudden crisis at Marah revealed that their hearts didn't actually trust him yet. That underlying slave mentality, that panic, the assumption that authority is ultimately out to get you was still there.
Just hiding.
Hiding under the surface of the celebration, just waiting for a trigger.
Man, that hits so incredibly close to home for anyone leading a team or honestly even just leading a family.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in everyday life, when our circumstances get bitter, what do? We do exactly what the Israelites did.
We look for someone to blame.
Exactly. We immediately look for a scapegoat. We make highly emotional, reactive decisions, and most tragically, we completely lose our corporate memory.
We forget everything good.
We suddenly have amnesia about every single good thing that has happened to us up to that exact point. So for you, the listener, the vital reminder here is this. Do not allow 3 difficult days to erase the memory of a lifetime of God's faithfulness.
That's a great point.
You cannot fire a great employee over one bad quarter, and you cannot abandon your trust in God over one bitter circumstance.
And that is really the core challenge of leadership, isn't it? Maintaining that grounded perspective when the crowd around you completely loses theirs.
It's so hard to do.
It is. Which brings us to the most critical moment, how Moses handles this direct, very personal attack. I mean, he is surrounded by a murmuring, panicked crowd.
They're demanding answers.
Putting all the pressure squarely on his shoulders. Moses has a choice to make about how he processes that pressure.
And his choice provides this absolute masterclass in crisis management.
It really does.
We introduce Exodus chapter 15, verse 25, and we see his response. The text says Moses cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree to cast into the water to make it sweet.
The contrast there is huge.
Massive. The people complained horizontally, like they aimed all their frustration, their panic, and their anger directly at Moses, the human leader.
Right.
But Moses prayed vertically. He took all of that intense pressure and aimed his desperation directly at God. But, and here's where it gets really interesting to me, the solution God provides is so bizarre.
It is a bit unconventional.
Right. Like, why a random tree? Couldn't God just snap his fingers and purify the water? Why involve this random physical prop?
Well, what's fascinating here is that God's methods often require human participation. But let's look at Moses first.
Okay.
By crying out to God instead of screaming back at the people, Moses demonstrates incredibly mature leadership. Think about the modern equivalent of horizontal complaining.
Oh, it's venting to your subordinates.
Exactly. It's creating a toxic break room culture where everyone just amplifies each other's anxiety. But Moses doesn't pass the frustration forward. He carries the burden upward.
I love that.
He takes the bitterness to God before taking it out on the people he is called to lead.
It's really the difference between just venting and actually seeking a solution. Venting horizontally just spreads the panic, you know?
It does.
Praying vertically actually engages the ultimate problem solver. But let's go back to that tree for a second.
Right, the tree.
What is the mechanism there? The text implies the tree itself didn't have some inherent chemical property that neutralizes toxic water, right?
Right. No, it wasn't a magic piece of wood. God was the absolute source of the miracle. But the tree was the specific, tangible means God chose to use.
Okay.
And there's a profound leadership principle in that dynamic. God frequently uses very ordinary, seemingly mundane things as instruments for extraordinary provision.
That's fascinating.
It might not look like lightning flashing from the sky. The answer to your intense leadership pressure might be a simple, uncomfortable conversation you need to have.
Oh, wow.
It might be taking the advice of a mentor. It might be establishing a very basic, boring, new daily habit. God uses the ordinary obedience of a leader to do the miraculous.
Because Moses had to actively pick up the tree and throw it in.
He had to participate in the process.
And there is a powerful theological layer here too, isn't there?
There is, actually. While this historical account stands on its own, many theologians and interpreters note a very powerful echo here that points forward.
Yeah.
They see this tree as a redemptive picture pointing toward the cross of Christ. How God consistently uses a tree to bring sweetness, healing, and redemption into the absolute most bitter and toxic places of human life and sin.
Wow.
It's a theme of redemption that echoes throughout the rest of the text.
I love that layer of meaning because it reinforces that the bitterness is never the end of the story.
Never.
It reminds us that when you are facing intense pressure in your everyday life, you have to fight that immediate urge to just blast everyone around you with blame.
It's our default setting, but we have to fight it.
Right. The true leadership move is to cry out honestly to God, to process that pressure vertically, and then, this is the key, be willing to obey simple, sometimes seemingly mundane instructions. A mentor of mine once summarized this principle beautifully. They said, prayer may not immediately remove you from the wilderness, but it absolutely changes what the wilderness is able to produce inside of you.
That is incredibly profound.
Right. It changes your internal posture before it changes your external reality.
And that internal shift is the exact transition we see next in the narrative.
Let's get into that.
Because God moves them from simply solving the immediate, panicky crisis of thirst toward understanding the long-term foundational purpose of this entire bitter experience.
So the crisis had a purpose.
Yes, the crisis wasn't just a hurdle, it was a setup. God is using it to reveal a brand new aspect of his character to them.
Let's look at how that unfolds. We introduce Exodus chapter 15, verses 26 and 27. God reveals himself to them with a specific new name, Jehovah Rapha, which means the Lord who heals.
It's a beautiful revelation.
And then right after that incredible revelation, he leads them to a place called Elim. And Elim is this incredible, lush oasis.
It's the total opposite of Marah.
Yes. The text notes it has 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees. It is the very definition of refreshment and abundance. So, what does this all mean for us today?
Well, what's your take?
When I read this transition from Marah to Elim, I can't help but observe human nature. We are so uniquely prone to pitching our permanent tent at Marah.
Oh, that is a very dangerous leadership trap, but we really are prone to doing exactly that.
Right. We experience a bitter situation, like a harsh betrayal, an unfair treatment at work, a massive financial loss, or, a team that turns on us. And instead of moving through it, we stop.
We just unpack our bags, right?
We literally unpack our bags. We replay the betrayal over and over in our minds. We rehearse the argument in the shower. We build our entire corporate or personal identity around our bitterness.
We become the person who was wronged.
Exactly. And in doing so, we completely miss that the oasis of Elim is literally the next stop on the journey.
That is such a crucial observation. God didn't just change the molecular structure of the water at Marah. He used the context of the bitter water to reveal his nature as a healer. And that healing is comprehensive. It's physical, absolutely, but it is also emotional, relational, and spiritual.
Which they desperately needed.
Israel needed to know that God restores and makes whole, especially after the trauma of Egypt. But this raises an important question about how we view comfort in crisis.
What do you mean?
We have to maintain a necessary balance here.
Okay, so what's the balance we need to strike?
Reaching Elim doesn't mean believers get a free pass and won't ever face hardship again. I mean, Elim is a beautiful oasis, but geographically, they're still technically in the wilderness.
Oh, that's a good point.
The lesson isn't that every difficulty you face will immediately be permanently resolved into luxury and comfort. We aren't talking about a prosperity gospel where one prayer guarantees a life of 70 palm trees and 12 wells forever.
Right. It's not a transaction where, you endure 3 days of bad water to earn a permanent vacation.
Exactly. The true lesson is about God's presence and character. The lesson is that God remains intimately present in both environments.
He's the same in both places.
Yes. He is the God who stands with you in the dust at the bitter, undrinkable waters of Marah, and he is the exact same God who sits beside you at the refreshing, abundant springs of Elim.
Wow.
His character does not fluctuate based on the geography of your life or the quarterly returns of your business.
Which means for you listening right now, your takeaway is that you absolutely should learn from the bitter places.
You have to.
You have to extract the wisdom from the failure or the pain or the severe leadership crisis. You analyze it, you learn from it, but you do not make that bitter place the permanent address of your soul.
Don't build a house there.
Exactly. You have to actively refuse to let a bitter experience turn you into a bitter person.
Because if you allow yourself to become a bitter leader, if you let that toxicity become your core identity, then the Egypt is still inside of you. You are still operating like a slave to your circumstances, rather than a free person trusting their provider.
That brings it completely full circle. Let's recap this leadership journey we've been tracking today because it is this really clear, intentional progression.
It really is a journey.
Back at the Red Sea, the Israelites learned that God is a deliverer. He can rescue them from impossible odds. Then they journey into the wilderness, they arrive at Marah, they face the bitter water and the crushing leadership pressure, and they learn that God is a healer.
He can fix what is toxic.
Yes. Then they journey onward to Elim, and they learn that God is a provider. He can sustain them with abundance. Deliverer, healer, provider.
It's a stepping stone of revelations. You can't skip a step.
We really can't.
Each location requires a different, deeper kind of trust, and each one strips away a little more of that old, Egyptian reliance on the self or the system.
It really is a masterclass in spiritual formation. And, I want to speak directly to your everyday life right now as we wrap this up. You might be standing at your own version of bitter water today.
So many of us are.
Maybe it's a painful professional relationship that has just recently turned toxic. Maybe you are in a season of work that started with so much excitement and fanfare, but now you are just completely exhausted, burned out, and facing a mutiny from your team.
Or maybe it's an unanswered prayer.
Yeah, an unanswered prayer that is leaving a really bitter, lingering taste in your mouth.
No.
Whatever it is, remember the blueprint from Exodus. Remember that Marah is just a stop along the journey.
It's not the end.
It is a place you are meant to pass through. It is not your final destination.
And as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over on your own this week.
Let's hear it.
It builds on everything we've discussed today about testing and revelation. We established right at the beginning that God used the harshness of the wilderness to get the old slave habits of Egypt out of Israel.
Right.
If the bitter waters of leadership pressure are truly designed to reveal what is hiding inside your heart, what Egypt is your current wilderness actively trying to starve out of you?
Man, that is a profound question worth sitting with. Thank you for joining us as we explored these everyday leadership principles. Keep leading well, keep turning those horizontal complaints into vertical prayers, and we will see you on the next deep dive.
Thank you for joining us on the Biblical Perspectives for Leadership podcast. I hope today's insights have encouraged and equipped you to lead with faith, wisdom, and purpose. Remember, the greatest leader of all time taught us that true leadership is about serving others. If you enjoyed this episode and podcast, be sure to subscribe, share it with others, and leave a review. It helps us reach more people with these transformative truths. Until next time, keep leading with grace and walking in purpose.